Ivy was recently hired to provide care for a young boy in a vegetative state. On her first day, she approached the Sullivan mansion, feeling the weight of her new responsibilities. As she adjusted the strap of her white uniform, she prepared herself to be the best nurse possible for her patient, Liam. Upon entering the mansion, Ivy was warmly welcomed by Magnus, Liam's father. He was of medium height with neatly combed gray hair, and his friendly demeanor and kind gaze immediately put her at ease. "Welcome, Ivy. We hope you feel at home here," he said with a warm smile. "Thank you, Mr. Magnus. I am committed to providing the best care for Liam," Ivy replied, maintaining her professionalism while taking in her surroundings. As Magnus began to show her around, they were soon joined by Daphne, his wife, and Liam's stepmother. Daphne, with her striking features and wavy brown hair, carried an air of confidence that was hard to ignore. Her entrance was somewhat abrupt, and she seemed to overlook Ivy entirely. "We need to discuss Liam's medications. He appears to be getting worse," Daphne stated, expressing her desire to consult her family's trusted doctor. Magnus, however, disagreed, insisting that the current treatment was effective and among the best available. As Ivy observed the exchange, it became clear that there was a long-standing conflict regarding Liam's care. "I provide my son with the best treatment," Magnus asserted, while Daphne expressed her frustration at feeling unheard. Before stepping away, Ivy felt compelled to intervene. "Mr. Magnus, the medications you provided for Liam's treatment appear appropriate. I assure you that I will do my utmost to care for your son," she said kindly. Magnus smiled appreciatively, expressing his confidence in her abilities as he guided her toward Liam's room. Once inside, Ivy began her work, carefully checking the medications and adjusting Liam's care plan. The door swung open unexpectedly, and Daphne stepped inside, her expression clearly reflecting her anxiety. "Ivy, did you handle the medications today? Did you notice anything unusual?" she inquired, her gaze fixed on the vial in Ivy's hand. Instinctively, Ivy concealed the vial behind her back. "No, ma'am. I wasn't informed of any changes regarding the medications," she replied, striving to maintain a calm tone. Daphne nodded, visibly preoccupied, and exited the room as quickly as she had arrived. Once Daphne was gone, Ivy felt compelled to dig deeper. She discreetly placed the vial in her pocket and continued with her duties, though her thoughts were elsewhere. Why was Daphne inquiring about the medication? What was Liam's fear of his family? Who was he afraid of? Ivy's concern grew stronger, convinced that something was amiss. Later that evening, while Liam was asleep, Ivy seized the opportunity to conduct a thorough search of the room. She sifted through drawers and cabinets, seeking anything unusual. At the bottom of one cabinet, she discovered a small bag containing several empty packages of the same unmarked medication she had seen earlier. Her heart raced at the realization. "This can't be a coincidence," she murmured to herself. Just then, she heard footsteps in the hallway and quickly concealed the bag beneath her uniform. Ivy kept a watchful eye on Liam, feeling the weight of the responsibility she now bore. After a short while, the door opened again, and a woman entered with an air of urgency. Ivy had not met her before, but her striking features and intense gaze conveyed a blend of strength and desperation. The newcomer barely acknowledged Ivy, her focus entirely on Liam. "Has there been any change since yesterday?" she asked, her voice filled with urgency and hope. "By the way, I'm Cleo, Liam's mother," she introduced herself, still fixated on her son. Taken aback by Cleo's sudden arrival, Ivy quickly replied, "No, ma'am. There have been no changes in his condition, as she observed Liam's mother gently caressing her son's hand. Liam had not shown any further signs of improvement. The door swung open unexpectedly, and Daphne stepped inside, her expression clearly reflecting her anxiety. "Ivy, did you handle the medications today? Did you notice anything unusual?" she inquired, her gaze fixed on the vial in Ivy's hand. Instinctively, Ivy concealed the vial behind her back. "No, ma'am. I wasn't informed of any changes regarding the medications," she replied, striving to maintain a calm tone. Daphne nodded, visibly distracted, and exited the room as quickly as she had arrived. Once Daphne was gone, Ivy felt compelled to dig deeper. She discreetly placed the vial in her pocket and continued with her duties, though her thoughts were preoccupied. Why had Daphne inquired about the medication? What was Liam's fear of his family? Who was he afraid of? Ivy's concern grew stronger, convinced that something was amiss. Later that evening, while Liam was asleep, Ivy seized the opportunity to conduct a thorough search of the room. She sifted through drawers and cabinets, seeking anything out of the ordinary. In a small bag tucked away at the bottom of a cabinet, she discovered several empty packages of the same unmarked medication she had seen earlier. Her heart raced at the realization. "This can't be a coincidence," she murmured to herself. Just then, she heard footsteps in the hallway and quickly concealed the bag beneath her uniform. Ivy kept a watchful eye on Liam, feeling the weight of the responsibility she now bore. After a short while, the door opened again, and a woman entered with an air of urgency. Ivy had not encountered this woman before. Her striking features and intense gaze conveyed a blend of strength and desperation. The newcomer barely acknowledged Ivy, her focus entirely on Liam. "Has there been any change since yesterday?" she asked, her voice filled with urgency and hope. "By the way, I'm Cleo, Liam's mother," she introduced herself, still fixated on her son. Taken aback by Cleo's sudden arrival, Ivy quickly replied, "No, ma'am. There have been no changes in his condition," as she observed Liam's mother gently caressing her son's hand. Liam had not shown any further signs of improvement. Ivy found herself questioning whether her perceptions were accurate, wondering if the movements she observed were truly involuntary and if she was unjustly suspecting well-meaning individuals. Just as the conversation was about to progress, Daphne entered the room, her expression immediately shifting to one of disapproval upon spotting Liam's mother by the bedside. "Cleo, you always arrive unannounced. This isn't beneficial for Liam, not that you seem to care about your own son," Daphne remarked, her underlying hostility barely concealed beneath a veneer of concern. Cleo turned to face Daphne, her expression fierce. "I am his mother, of course I care. Besides, I don't need an invitation to see my own son," she retorted, her voice rising in frustration. "And what have you been doing every time I visit? He seems to be getting worse." Daphne stepped forward, her posture tense. "I am doing everything I can. Magnus trusts me to take care of our boy," she asserted, placing emphasis on the word "our" in a way that clearly irked Cleo. "Perhaps your visits are making Liam worse," Daphne continued. Sensing the escalating tension, Ivy intervened, hoping to restore calm. "Maybe we can all sit down and discuss this in a more constructive manner elsewhere. Liam needs peace," she suggested, striving to be the voice of reason. Cleo and Daphne exchanged a long, charged glance before Cleo abruptly turned to Ivy. "You're the new nurse, right? You don't know anything about my son or what's best for our family," she stated, scrutinizing Ivy with a critical gaze. Before Ivy could respond, Daphne interjected, "She just got here, Cleo. Don't involve her in this." Cleo sighed, shaking her head. "You know what I think we should do?" "A nurse won't solve the problem," she declared, casting a determined look at Daphne, who silently vowed not to relent. The two women eventually exited the room, continuing their discussion in hushed tones. As they walked away, Ivy glanced at Liam, who remained unaware of the turmoil surrounding him. Feeling a renewed sense of purpose, Shivi recalled the unmarked vials she had discovered and felt a strong urge to delve deeper into the mystery. She patiently waited for a quiet moment to search the room again. Once the house settled down, Ivy rose and began to sift through a bathroom drawer for any potential clues. Her heart raced when she uncovered another package of the unprescribed medication concealed beneath some towels. This particular medication appeared different, thicker and dark green in color. "This medication seems unusual," she murmured, recognizing the significance of her find. With this new evidence in hand, she understood that the next steps were critical. As her shift came to a close, Ivy felt reluctant to leave Liam's side, so she settled onto the auxiliary bed beside him. Just then, Magnus entered the room, his expression reflecting a father's concern as he checked on his son during the night. "Ivy, how is he today?" "Any changes?" he inquired, his gaze filled with worry as he ensured Liam was still breathing. Ivy could see the depth of his love for his son through his attentive demeanor, but she refrained from commenting until she had more certainty. "No, Mr. Magnus, no changes, but I remain hopeful for improvements," she replied, quickly closing her notebook. Magnus offered a sad smile. "Thank you, Ivy. Your dedication means a great deal to us," he said before leaving the room, leaving Ivy alone with her thoughts and uncertainties. She glanced at her notebook and then at Liam, who was still asleep. The truth lay hidden among the medications and family secrets, and she was resolute in her quest to uncover it. The following morning, Ivy began her shift with heightened awareness, closely monitoring Liam, whose condition remained unchanged, a stillness that felt increasingly forced. Shortly after her shift began, Liam's stepmother, Daphne, entered the room with a tray, presenting a new vial of medication. "Good morning, Ivy. This is the new medication the doctor prescribed. We hope it will make a difference," she said, maintaining a carefully neutral expression. Ivy observed Daphne as she prepared the dose, her instincts signaling that something was amiss. The sudden introduction of a new medication only heightened her suspicions. "Could you please show me the prescription? I want to ensure Liam's records are up to date," Ivy requested, striving to keep her tone calm and professional. Daphne hesitated for a moment, her expression faltering. "Ah, yes, of course, let me get it," she replied before leaving the room. Seizing the opportunity during Daphne's absence, Ivy approached Liam to assess his health status. When Daphne returned, surprisingly without any documentation, Ivy sensed something was off. "I'm sorry, I couldn't find the prescription, but I'm sure it's safe," Daphne said, her tone a bit rushed. Ivy noted her nervousness, aware that something was not quite right. Ivy observed the administration of the medication with a sense of unease. Liam began to exhibit signs of discomfort, his facial expressions tightened, and his breathing became more labored. Recognizing the need for vigilance, Ivy promptly began monitoring his vital signs, which revealed subtle yet concerning changes. "I cannot allow her to administer any medication to Liam without consulting the doctor first," Ivy quietly reassured herself. Alarmed by the situation, she decided to intensify her observations, meticulously documenting every detail in her notebook. As time passed, Ivy felt compelled to take action. "I need to speak with the doctor immediately," she stated aloud, echoing Daphne's earlier sentiments. This decision, though risky, was essential for Liam's protection. Daphne, who had been monitoring Liam's condition, quickly intervened. "Ivy, you're new here. Medical decisions are complex and made with Liam's best interests in mind," she said, attempting to soothe the anxious nurse. However, Ivy remained resolute. "Liam's well-being is my top priority. I was hired to care for him, and if something seems amiss, I will do everything in my power to address it." "I need to speak with the doctor," she replied, increasingly feeling like a guardian in Liam's life. Daphne left the room to obtain the doctor's contact information. Seizing the moment of solitude, Ivy revisited her records. The atmosphere in Liam's room grew tenser in Daphne's absence. Ivy continued her vigilant monitoring, her heart heavy with concern. As she awaited Daphne's return, she meticulously noted every breath Liam took and any slight deviations on the monitors, creating a paper trail she hoped would remain unused but deemed necessary. It wasn't long before Daphne returned, her expression serious. "Here is the number." "The doctor's name is Dr. Huxley," she announced, handing Ivy a small piece of paper. "You'll see that everything is fine." Ivy accepted the number with trembling hands, expressing her gratitude with a nod. She promptly called Dr. Huxley, her voice steady yet courteous, requesting that he examine Liam as soon as possible. While waiting for the doctor, Ivy continued to monitor Liam's condition. When Dr. Huxley finally arrived, she felt a wave of relief at the prospect of having a professional who could assist with the boy's health. Dr. Huxley, a middle-aged physician, presented himself in a pristine lab coat, exuding a sense of professional calm. Following a brief introduction, he conducted a thorough examination of Liam. Ivy closely observed each of his movements and checks, and she took the opportunity to show Dr. Huxley the medication prescribed by Daphne that had triggered the monitors. The doctor turned to Ivy with a neutral expression and reassured her, stating, "I can assure you that the prescribed medication aligns with Liam's health condition. There are no discrepancies in the treatment. Such temporary fluctuations in the devices are quite common after administering this type of medication." He concluded his assessment by closing his briefcase with a firm click and exchanged a knowing glance with Liam's stepmother. Ivy felt a blend of relief and frustration. She was relieved to hear there were no apparent mistakes, yet frustrated by an instinctive feeling that the information did not align with the reality she perceived. "Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate your visit," Ivy said, maintaining her composure. Once Dr. Huxley and Daphne exited the room, the nurse settled beside Liam's bed, deep in thought. As day transitioned into night, the mansion enveloped itself in a deceptive tranquility. Despite the doctor's reassurances, Ivy remained vigilant, monitoring the boy's vital signs. She gently took Liam's hand, speaking softly, almost to herself, "If something is wrong, I will uncover the truth." This was a silent promise to the vulnerable boy before her. As the night wore on, Ivy braced herself for a long vigil. Then, unexpectedly, it happened again. Liam, who seemed incapable of conscious actions, moved his fingers. Their eyes met, and there was a clarity in his gaze that Ivy could not overlook. Her heart raced as she whispered, "Liam," leaning closer. The boy's fingers twitched once more, but the moment was fleeting, vanishing almost as quickly as it had appeared. Liam returned to his previous state, Yet that brief interaction was enough to convince Ivy that there was more to his condition than she had been led to believe. Determined to uncover the truth, Ivy began searching the room for any evidence that might support her suspicions regarding the child's care. After a few minutes of searching, she discovered several diaries bearing Liam's name, written in the unsteady handwriting of a newly literate child. A surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins. The diaries may provide insight into the unprescribed medications that appeared to be affecting Liam negatively. However, they were secured with small locks. She selected the oldest diary and called out to Liam several times, but he did not respond. After a few minutes, his eyes finally opened, and Divy observed closely as a flicker of awareness returned to him. Gently, she approached and spoke softly, "Liam, if you can hear me, could you please show me where the key to your diary is? I'm your new nurse, and I'm here to help you." With great effort, Liam's gaze shifted, and he pointed towards a small drawer in his bedside table. Following his direction, Ivy carefully opened the drawer and discovered a small golden key hidden beneath a stack of old papers and faded photographs. Heart racing with anticipation, she returned to the diary, inserted the key into the lock, and turned it, hearing the satisfying click that released years of concealed emotions. As she began to read the first pages, Liam's inner thoughts were laid bare with poignant clarity. Ivy encountered his trembling handwriting, where he articulated his growing anxiety over the conflicts between his mother, Cleo, and his stepmother, Daphne. "Mom and Daphne fought again today. I don't understand why they can't just get along. Every time they argue, it feels like a part of me is being torn away," he wrote in an entry dated a few months prior to the accident that left him in a vegetative state. Turning the page, Ivy uncovered further revelations about how the constant fighting heightened his anxiety, making him feel trapped in a conflict he wished to escape. "I just want everyone to stop fighting over me. It feels like I can't say anything, I'm just a pawn in their game." As she continued through the diary, Ivy found references to various custody disputes, each entry deepening her understanding of Liam's fear and isolation, which only strengthened her resolve to protect him. He was just a child grappling with the challenges of his parents' separation. Closing the diary was a poignant moment for Ivy, as Liam's words resonated with her own concerns about the situation in his home. She settled beside his bed, holding the diary close to her heart, and looked at Liam, whose eyes had once again drifted shut. "I will protect you, Liam, now that I know how you felt. I won't let them hurt you anymore," she promised, her voice a determined whisper in the dark room. Armed with this new information, Ivy knew the next step was to confront Magnus and Daphne with what she had discovered. She needed answers not just for herself, but for Liam, who continued to fight silently. Preparing for the confrontation, she knew the next few hours could define Liam's future. However, at dawn the following morning, Cleo returned to the house, this time intent on silencing her son forever. As Ivy passed by the office door to fetch one of the medical utensils intended for Liam's care, she heard the boy's mother say, "We have to turn off the machines. Magnus, I can't bear to see our son like this anymore," Cleo said, causing the nurse to startle. "He's suffering. We can't let this go on," she continued. Ivy stopped in the corridor, trying to listen to the conversation, her heart pounding with fear of what was to come. "I don't want to talk about this again," murmured Magnus, sounding tired of having the same conversation. "I've asked the medical team to come here immediately to start the procedure. It will be painless and we will end his suffering. A son can't stay like this." She finished hearing this. Ivy ran to the room, determined to stand in front of the professionals to prevent them from carrying out the procedure. However, she knew that if she revealed that Liam was improving, someone might do something even worse to him, especially after reading the diaries. Ivy rushed back to Liam's room, her heart racing and her mind spinning with the possibilities of what could happen next. The house, which had once seemed gloomy and silent, now felt charged with the urgency and palpable fear of an imminent decision. Upon reaching the room, she stood in front of Liam, ready to protect him with her life if necessary. A few seconds passed before Daphne and Cleo entered the room amid a heated argument. Daphne, her voice raised and firm, argued, "We can't give up on him now. Cleo, there's always a chance for improvement. You can't just decide this on your own." Cleo, on the other hand, seemed resolute and weary. The exhaustion of years reflected in her words. "This isn't a life, Daphne, look at him. Do you really think this is fair? We're prolonging his suffering." Ivy, observing the tension between the two, knew she had to intervene. She was about to reveal Liam's subtle improvement when he decided it was time for his voice to be heard. Unexpectedly, his eyes opened completely, a disturbing clarity reflected in them. "Stop," Liam said, his voice weak but audible. The two women immediately fell silent, turning to him with shocked expressions. "I am," repeatedly uttered Ivy's name, struggling to comprehend the unfolding events. He turned to the nurse and hoarsely requested, "Call the police." The atmosphere in the room was thick with disbelief, punctuated only by the soft beeping of medical equipment. Cleo and Daphne's expressions mirrored the shock of the moment, as Liam's voice, which had been silent for years, now conveyed a strong and determined intent, shifting the entire dynamic. Ivy, still processing the gravity of the situation, quickly grabbed her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed the police in response to Liam's urgent request. As the phone rang, she locked eyes with him, sensing a blend of fear and resolve. She was prepared to protect him at all costs, unwilling to let anyone threaten his safety. Just then, Mr. Magnus entered the room and was promptly informed of his son's remarkable improvement. Overcome with emotion, he knelt in tears. Meanwhile, Liam alternated his gaze between his mother and stepmother, the weight of his words lingering in the air. Cleo, with tears in her eyes, approached the bed, her earlier confidence shaken by the unexpected turn of events. "Liam, my son, I only wanted the best for you. I thought you were suffering," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Liam, making a visible effort, managed a smile for his mother, a gesture that conveyed understanding despite the circumstances. His stepmother, who had been observing the scene with a complex array of emotions, finally spoke up, "Liam, we will never give up on you, especially now." Her tone, once defensive, now reflected genuine relief at the clarity of the situation. However, Liam interjected, his voice still hoarse, "But now I need to tell the truth to the police." As he continued, his voice grew weaker, each word seeming to take a toll on him. His breathing became irregular, prompting Ivy to monitor the machines beside him with growing concern, ready to intervene if necessary. Daphne stepped closer, her voice trembling as she urged, "Liam, please rest for a moment. We can discuss this later when you're better." But Liam shook his head slowly, the determination clear in his weakened eyes, no need to talk. Now his voice was almost a whisper and his eyelids began to droop, struggling to stay open. Before Liam could continue, the sounds of the devices beside him intensified and alert that something was wrong. Ivy, realizing the gravity of the situation, requested an ambulance to come to the mansion immediately while she began attending to the boy, administering medication to stabilize his blood pressure. Everyone in the room watched as Ivy cared for the child until the medical team finally rushed into the room, as if he had used all his strength to wait for help. Liam's eyes closed, his consciousness slipping away before he could reveal his secret. The doctors immediately started working, instructing Cleo, Daphne and Magnus to step back while they tried to stabilize Liam. Ivy assisted them, explaining the boy's condition while holding his hand until she finally had to leave him to the care of the doctors. Chaos erupted in the residence, especially with the arrival of the police. One of the officers approached Ivy. "We were informed that the patient wanted to make a statement. Can he talk now?" Ivy shook her head, frustration and fear evident in her voice. "He went into a coma again before he could tell us anything. We don't know when or if he will wake up again." The officers nodded, exchanging serious looks. "We will need all the information possible about what might have led to this situation," one of them said, asking that as soon as the boy improved, they should come to the station to provide clarification. Everyone was nervous, especially when Liam was taken to the hospital by the doctors, who assured it would be better to treat him there, as some of the tests detected something unusual. Ivy heard one of the doctors say they were about to lose the boy and that unfortunately his sudden consciousness could actually be an indicator of his worsening condition. Ivy remembered that her mother, when she was about to pass from this world, had also improved significantly. They spent hours talking as if her mother had suddenly gotten better until her mother passed away. The memory was still as beautiful as it was painful. "God, please don't let anything bad happen to Liam. He's just a child." She prayed, watching the boy leave for the hospital. The trip to the hospital was fraught with tension and nervousness. Ivy's mind whirler with the possible implications of what Liam had tried to say and the critical condition he now found himself in. Upon arriving at the hospital, Liam was promptly taken to the emergency room, where a dedicated team of doctors and nurses was ready to assist him. Ivy stayed close by his side, providing unwavering support as he underwent a series of urgent tests. While the medical team worked diligently, Ivy took the opportunity to speak with one of the doctors, sharing her concerns about a possible accidental overdose of medications. "I suspect there may have been a lack of coordination with the prescriptions he received," she explained. Dr. Huxley reassured her, stating, "We will check all the medication levels in his blood. If it is indeed an overdose, we will identify the specific medications involved. However, I can assure you that the medication previously administered by Mrs. Daphne was not the cause." As the tests continued, Ivy felt her anxiety mounting. She found a chair in the hallway, clasping her hands in silent prayer, recalling her mother's unexpected improvement before her passing, a phenomenon that sometimes signaled an impending end. "Please don't let it be the same for Liam," she whispered softly amidst the sounds of the hospital. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor returned with the test results, his expression somber and confirming Ivy's worst fears. "We found elevated levels of a particularly potent medication in Liam's system. This medication requires careful administration, and we suspect that the combination and dosage may have contributed to the adverse reaction he experienced," Dr. Huxley informed her. Ivy felt a complex mix of emotions, anger at the confirmation of her suspicions regarding negligence, and relief at finally having concrete information to act upon. "We need to investigate how this occurred. It's crucial to determine whether it was an accidental error or something more serious," she stated with determination. Dr. Huxley agreed, emphasizing the importance of keeping Liam under intensive observation to stabilize his vital signs. Your cooperation will be essential. We will need to notify the police, he added, pausing to look at Ivy seriously. You did well to bring him in right away. Your quick action may have saved his life. I will do everything I can for him now, and it's important that you report everything that happened to prevent this from happening again. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Ivy knew her next step was to confront Cleo and Daphne. She needed to clarify each person's role in administering Liam's medications to ensure that such a risk would not occur again. With the medical documents in hand, she temporarily left the hospital and headed to the police station to give her statement. She reported everything she knew to the police, from conflicting prescriptions to the discovery of dangerous medication levels in Liam's blood. The investigators immediately began gathering all the information provided by the nurse. I hope they find the criminal capable of such cruelty, Ivy hoped. Seeking justice. Returning to the hospital, Ivy prepared for the confrontation she would have with Cleo and Daphne. The puzzle pieces were beginning to fit together, and she was determined to protect Liam from any future harm. Armed with the truth and the law on her side, Ivy walked through the hospital corridors, her thoughts revolving around the shocking revelations about Liam's treatment. Her determination to protect him had never been stronger, but her resolve would be tested in ways she did not expect. One of the medical staff informed her that the boy had finally been stabilized and that they managed to administer an antidote in time, before the worst happened to him. There were rumors in the hospital that someone had tried to poison him. I was right. Someone is lying, but who? Ivy wondered. As she entered the room, Ivy was greeted by a visibly disturbed Magnus. His posture was tense, his eyes fixed on Ivy with an intensity that immediately put her on alert. Ivy, we need to talk. He began, his voice carrying a firmness that left no room for argument. Before she could respond, Magnus continued. I believe your presence here is bringing more stress to everyone, especially to Liam. I think it would be best if you stepped away for a while. Ivy was stunned. The suggestion of being removed when Liam needed her most was a blow. She didn't expect Magnus. I'm just trying to help. Magnus raised his hand to interject, expressing his understanding of her intentions while emphasizing the sensitivity of the situation. He explained that Liam needed tranquility and the current chaos was counterproductive. Although Ivy felt frustrated and unjustly treated, she recognized that protesting might exacerbate matters. Reluctantly, she agreed, all the while brainstorming ways to support Liam from afar. Regardless, I will stay with Liam until everything is resolved, just to be cautious, she stated, surprised that Magnus would dismiss her at such a critical time. Once Magnus exited the room, Ivy approached Liam's bedside, where he appeared to be resting. She gently took his hand and said, Liam, if there's anything else you need to share, please try. I want to help you. To her surprise, Liam slowly opened his eyes, his voice barely a whisper yet filled with urgency. Ivy, not who they seem, he said, his serious gaze sending chills down her spine. Who, Liam? Who isn't who they seem? She leaned in closer, whispering back. Be careful, was all he could manage before his eyes fluttered shut, exhaustion overtaking him. The calm beeping of the monitoring machine was suddenly interrupted by a series of alarming alerts as Liam went into cardiac arrest. Ivy's heart raced as she stood up, realizing the gravity of the situation. She pressed the emergency button, summoning doctors and nurses to the room. Within moments, the space was filled with healthcare professionals working with urgent precision to stabilize Liam. "He's having cardiac arrest," one doctor shouted as they began CPR. Ivy was quickly ushered into the hallway, feeling helpless as she watched the medical team fight to save him. Meanwhile, the police, alerted by the hospital regarding the critical situation, arrived promptly. A detective approached Ivy, who was still grappling with the unfolding events. "Miss, we received a call from the hospital about a potential poisoning attempt. We will review the security footage to clarify the situation," he informed her. Case. Ivy, still in shock, just nodded. The suspicions of poisoning confirmed her worst fears about the danger Liam faced, but she never imagined this could happen. Inside the hospital itself, the police quickly accessed the security camera recordings closely, observing the moments leading up to Liam's crisis. It didn't take long for them to discover something shocking. The footage showed Magnus sneaking into Liam's room and administering something into his fore. Confronted with the evidence, Magnus was immediately handcuffed in the hospital. Under pressure, he finally broke his silence. "I just wanted to end his suffering," Magnus confessed, his voice choked with remorse. "I couldn't bear to see my son like that. I thought I was doing the right thing. He was dead in life. Then I knew he would worsen again, and I wanted the best for him. What good would it do for him to wake up and return to that bed again? That was not a life. He was suffering," he completed. Hearing the confession, Ivy felt a mix of anger and sadness. She thought of all the times Liam had tried to communicate in his struggle to express his will to live. Despite the circumstances, Magnus' betrayal not only put Liam in mortal danger but also destroyed the relationship he could have had with his own father. The police arrested Magnus, but Ivy did not miss the shock that overtook the faces of Cleo and Daphne, who argued so much about the best way to care for the child that they did not see the real danger he faced. As the days passed, Liam's health improved. The boy slowly started to walk, talk, and act like a normal child again. The police investigations that were conducted with meticulous attention to detail indicated with a high degree of certainty that the medications administered to Liam by Daphne indeed resulted in a significant and measurable improvement in his overall medical condition. Clea, overwhelmed by a profound sense of remorse and guilt for having contemplated the drastic action of turning off the life-sustaining machines, when she believed her son would not exhibit any signs of improvement, found herself grappling with a profound loss of faith during that particularly harrowing period of investigation. After thorough deliberation, it was conclusively decided that the custody of Liam would remain with Daphne, who exhibited not only a deep and nuanced understanding of Liam's intricate medical needs but also an unwavering commitment to his ongoing recovery and well-being. Cleo, despite her feelings of regret and sorrow, ultimately concurred that the stability and nurturing family environment that Daphne could provide would be the most beneficial for Liam's continued health and emotional development. She resolved to maintain her involvement in Liam's life, albeit in a more peripheral capacity, ensuring that he would always be aware of the profound love and care she held for him in her heart. As Liam continued his journey of recovery, Ivy experienced a complex interplay of relief and satisfaction, recognizing her crucial role in uncovering the underlying truth and safeguarding the boy from a potentially tragic fate that loomed over him. She made it a point to visit Liam on a regular basis, establishing herself as a steadfast figure of support and care in his life. The relationship that blossomed between them grew increasingly resilient, fortified by the adversity they had faced together and the mutual trust that had been carefully cultivated over time. On one particularly sunny day, with the sun shining brilliantly high in the azure sky, Liam joyfully ran through the park under the vigilant and caring eyes of both Ivy and Daphne. His laughter, which resonated as a sound that was both free and exuberant, was a melody that Ivy never thought she would have the privilege of hearing again during those dark and challenging days spent in the hospital. As she observed him play, Ivy found herself reflecting on the incredible journey that had transpired from those tense and anxiety-laden moments in the hospital to this present moment where hope had not only survived but flourished. Against all odds and expectations, he is making remarkable progress, Daphne remarked with a tone of pride while standing next to Ivy and watching Liam with an unmistakable maternal expression. It truly is a miracle considering all of the challenges and adversities he has faced throughout this ordeal. Ivy nodded in agreement, her heart swelling with warmth at the scene unfolding before her eyes, expressing her thoughts with a deep conviction. It is more than just a miracle, Daphne. It serves as profound evidence that resilience and love have the extraordinary capacity to profoundly alter the trajectory of one's life. Liam is undeniably a fighter, Daphne affirmed with a smile, and he certainly has you to thank for that as well. If it had not been for your relentless determination to uncover the truth, one can only speculate as to where we might find ourselves at this moment. Ivy felt a surge of pride welling up within her, yet she was acutely aware that the true victory lay in witnessing Liam so vibrant, full of life, and brimming with potential. She had made an unwavering promise to him in that dark hospital room, and she had indeed kept it, not merely as a means of protecting him but also as an opportunity to grant him the chance to live the life he so richly deserved. The investigations that were conducted into Magnus and his subsequent arrest culminated in significant modifications to medication regulation and stringent oversight of complex medical cases within the hospital system. It is an undeniable truth that no child should ever have to endure the harrowing experiences that Liam was subjected to, and Ivy took it upon herself to actively engage in various campaigns aimed at raising awareness about the paramount importance of child medical safety, leveraging her own experiences and insights to advocate for systemic change. Liam's story as a powerful testimony of the need for ongoing vigilance and advocacy. Over time, Liam's story served as a sobering reminder, but also as an inspiration. And as he ran through the park that sunny afternoon, it was clear that despite everything, Liam was finally where he belonged, in a place of love, care, and endless possibilities. Following his arrest and confession, Magnus faced the full extent of the law. During the trial, it became evident that despite his declared intentions to alleviate his son's suffering, his actions had crossed ethical and legal boundaries. He was convicted of improper medication administration and endangering Liam's life, receiving a sentence that reflected the gravity of his actions. Magnus' conviction was a moment of reflection for many about the responsibility and power parents have over their children's lives. Ivy never stopped visiting the boy, even when she got a job on Dr. Huxley's team, in recognition of everything she had done. Gradually, Ivy was promoted to head nurse, where she found not only her professional fulfillment but also her life's purpose. Her tireless dedication during Liam's crisis not only saved a young life, but also paved her way to becoming an influential advocate for patient safety in hospitals. Ivy was invited to speak at health conferences nationwide, sharing her experience and lessons learned from Liam's case. Her voice became an unstoppable force for reforming child medical treatment, and she helped implement new protocols for medication administration in several health institutions. Liam, now a vibrant teenager, had surpassed all medical expectations with Daphne's love and care. He not only regained his health, but thrived in various aspects of life. His resilience and strength were a constant source of inspiration for Ivy, who continued to visit him regularly. They shared a special bond, forged in the flames of adversity and strengthened by their mutual commitment to overcoming challenges. Surprisingly, the relationship between Daphne and Cleo transformed over the years. What began as hostility, fueled by fears and uncertainties, dissolved, giving way to an unlikely friendship. Both women had learned to put their differences aside for Liam's sake. Their meetings, initially tense and filled with historical grievances, these interactions gradually evolved into occasions of sharing and reciprocal support. Cleo, in particular, discovered tranquility within her remorse and endeavored to mend her relationship with Liam, treasuring each moment spent with her offspring. Illuminated by a newfound appreciation and respect for existence, both women came to the realization that, fundamentally, they desired the best for Liam, which necessitated a collaborative effort. Consequently, they exerted themselves to assist one another for the welfare of the child. This cooperative endeavor ultimately enabled Liam to attain the familial tranquility he had yearned for. He beamed sincerely, experiencing a sense of belonging fostered by the two women who, despite their inherent differences, nurtured him with profound affection. As Ivy reflected on their collective achievements, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude on Daphne's porch during a radiant afternoon, observing Liam engage in soccer with his peers in the backyard. Ivy smiled, recognizing that against all odds, they had constructed something magnificent from the remnants of despair. Life, with its myriad unexpected developments, had imparted to each of them vital lessons regarding the potency of hope, resilience, and advocacy for the vulnerable, while primarily emphasizing the importance of maintaining faith. Even in moments of perceived desolation, when opportunities seemed non-existent, they acknowledged that within life there always exists a capacity for faith, for miraculous occurrences, and for experiences surpassing the limits of human comprehension. They had come to understand that life, despite its intricacies, retained the potential for faith, love, and hope. The shadows of their past had receded, making way for the illumination of a present they had never envisioned. Each day presented the chance to celebrate existence, to cherish every instant, and to anticipate the future with optimism. Observing Liam as he ran and laughed, his exuberance and joy permeated the atmosphere with an assurance of promising futures, not solely for him but for all those whose lives had been influenced by his journey. Ivy contemplated the numerous lessons acquired and how each encountered obstacle had not only molded her professional trajectory, but also her worldview regarding life and humanity. Beside her, Daphne exchanged a glance imbued with comprehension and contentment. They found no necessity for verbal communication to convey their sentiments. The sense of mission fulfilled resonated profoundly. Daphne, who had metamorphosed from adversary to ally, had evolved into more than a mere friend. She had become a sister in spirit to Ivy. Together, they had adeptly maneuvered through the most tumultuous challenges life presented and emerged fortified. On the other side, Cleo, positioned a short distance away, observed her son with an expression of tranquility that is only achieved through acceptance and forgiveness both of herself and others. The healing process had been long and arduous for her, full of ups and downs, but she finally found peace, the gratitude for having Liam healthy and for restoring her relationship with him, shone in her eyes every time she saw him smile. As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink ivy, Daphne and Cleo allowed themselves a moment of quiet contemplation. Liam, unaware of the challenges he had overcome, played soccer with the carefree attitude of someone who knows he is safe and loved, and most importantly, someone who knew he was a living miracle. In that perfect moment, they knew that everything they had fought for was worth it. Life still held many mysteries and challenges, but they would face them together with the unwavering faith that had guided each step of their journeys thus far. Your support motivates us to continue bringing exciting stories almost every day. Don't miss the next surprising narrative that's about to appear on your screen. We are immensely grateful to have you here with us now. You can click on the links appearing on the screen. Right now we have a special selection just for you, full of valuable stories and guaranteed entertainment. See you there.